The other week, I published my ultimate beginner's guide for Starfield, and I got one comment on it that really stood out to me. Bethesda here talks about rushing through New Game Plus 10 times over without doing anything else. To me, this sounds like an excruciating way to play the game, but it's clearly Bethesda's preferred way to do things, which got me thinking, is New Game Plus really worth it at all? So I came up with a pros and cons list, going over every reason I could come up with for and against beating the game and stepping through the Unity to do it all again. Before we get into the list, I will just quickly explain what New Game Plus is, although this will also be me spoiling the end of the game, so if you don't want spoilers, here's the point to fully stop watching. Once you've gone through the Constellation questline and gathered all the artifacts, you can grab jump to the Unity. What the Unity actually is a bit too complicated for this short summary, so all we're going to focus on is what happens when you step into it. You leave your previous universe behind and step into a new one, which will be near identical to the one you left. Essentially, this lets you start the game again, but with a few small changes, such as skipping over the initial opening, character creation, and so on. That should be all you really need to know going forward, so let's move on to the pros and cons list. We're going to start with the pros, and foremost among these in my mind is the possibility to end up in a variant universe, where things are set up differently. Every time you go through the Unity, there seems to be a chance that the new universe will have some kind of notable difference. Normally the game will just claim that your new universe version got lost on the way to the lodge, giving a free space for the actual player version of you to step back into things. But this isn't always the case, and there can sometimes be real interesting differences with Constellation in new universes. For example, it's possible to travel to the lodge and find another version of yourself there, or that all of the members of Constellation have gone, either having been killed or retired. For me, these different realities with real notable changes are the main reason to go through the Unity, as there's many more interesting interactions you can have. Getting some actual changes to the story is a really cool element, but it's also not really much of a guarantee. I've actually had none of these notably cool changes happen in the handful of New Game Plus universes I've gone to, so while it is the coolest part of the whole system, it also just might not happen, hence I've got no footage of it. And that kinda sucks. There are some things that you can control in the new universe though, one of which is choosing to either repeat the main quest, or explain to Constellation that you're now a Starborn, and just search for the artifacts instead. This second option means you skip doing most Constellation missions, including a hard price to pay, the mission in which you lose a companion. If you lost your favourite follower in your last universe, or even just want to keep Constellation whole, but it might be worth it for you to step into New Game Plus, at least one time, just for this reason. It also lets you do other missions in a different way, if you weren't happy with the outcome. The main example I can think of here is with UC SysDef / the Crimson Fleet. Their missions eventually make you side with one over the other. Maybe you regret your choice, or just want to see what the other side of things is like. Well, by going through with New Game Plus, you get that opportunity. I do feel like this is much more of a mild positive though, as you can just do the other side of quests with a completely new character, so it's not like this is something totally exclusive to New Game Plus. Something which is unique to this mode are the Starborn dialogue options. Once you've been through the Unity, you will then occasionally get dialogue options marked with Starborn in square brackets. These are mostly prevalent if you decide to repeat the main quest in the new universe, and it mostly comes down to your character being a bit of a know-it-all, who already knows the answer to what's going on. Oftentimes the dialogue just adds a little humour or a sense of power to the overall scene, but it can sometimes help you skip through things, notably persuasion checks. Much like with the variations to Constellation, this is another point where you get to see things play out a little bit differently, and I think we all like seeing more scripted content in our games. The penultimate point on my pros list is that you get some cool looking Starborn stuff when you enter the new universe. You'll spawn aboard a Starborn Guardian, one of their ships, now fully in your control the first time that you pass through the Unity. While this ship seemingly can't be modified, it is very strong, so if you're not much into shipbuilding, this is a way to get a powerful craft without having to interact with that system at all. You also get a Starborn suit, which is a strong individual item, but it does take up spacesuit, helmet, and boost pack slots, which nerfs how good it really is. Does mean that you'll normally be better off with just 3 separate good pieces of gear, but as something to start the new universe in, it's solid. And it does look really cool. Style points are top notch for Starborn outfits, but you are getting 3 effects rather than potentially 9, and worse resistance overall. So, not a huge pro overall. Final point I could see in the pro column for going through New Game Plus, especially multiple times, is the relatively fast levelling. Once you've done the full story once, you can just do a quick search for the artifacts of a new universe, which generally doesn't take too long. This means you'll be back at the very temple in next to no time, and completing endgame missions gives a real decent chunk of XP. If you want to just speed through the levels in order to gain skill points at a rapid rate, New Game Plus can certainly help with that. And that's pretty much it for the pros list. If you can think of any other positives for going through the Unity, please do post them in the comments. For now though, I'm going to head into the cons list. You lose almost everything. Yeah, the list against is basically just this one point, but there's so much to it. If you've been playing through the first time normally, then chances are you made a lot of progress. You will have found equipment that goes well with your build, maybe got real lucky with a random legendary drop or two, have saved up a ton of credits, have a large roster of crew, maybe you've even fully befriended or romanced members of Constellation as well. You could have a fleet of powerful ships you spent hours working on, and outposts which no doubt truly took an age to construct to your liking. And then there's the benefits that come from having completed missions. Some factions won't let you access certain areas, mission boards, or characters, until you've completed a specific mission for them first. If you were a pirate in the first universe, you can't just fly straight to the key and expect the same warm welcome. You're now a complete stranger to them, and almost certainly a threat. The only bit of progress that you definitely don't lose is experience and skills. You keep all your skill points both spent and saved, and your character remains at the same level. And that's basically it for what you get to keep from the previous universe. Depending on how much time you dedicated to the past one, leaving it may not be all that worth it for you. When you've built up so much, it can be hard to leave it all behind to start again. Ultimately, I think the decision on whether or not to progress through the Unity and start a New Game Plus really depends on the type of player you are, so I want to go over that for a bit. Now, I'm the type of person who loves starting new characters. I've always been far more into origin stories than I have endings. Origins present you something new and exciting, whereas endings just let you know it's now all over. This has led me to being someone who makes a lot of characters in video games, but will generally never get them to really high levels. In Bethesda games, I typically have my characters reach the 20s or 30s, and then I'll start a new one, with a different backstory, playstyle, and so on. Due to this, New Game Plus doesn't have a huge appeal to me. By the time I've stepped through the Unity, I generally am done with the character, and don't want to keep playing as them. I spent my time as the neon-board sword-wielding Ronin, and now maybe I want to be a 3-star native sniper. That's a completely different character, one that you don't get to play as when starting New Game Plus, but which you do get to play as when just starting a regular new game. For me, this is the big reason I really haven't played around much with post-Unity content. I have to stick with the same character when I'd much rather be playing as someone new. But obviously most people aren't like me. Many players out there don't plan on ever making more than one character, even when it comes to big expansive open world games. If you're someone who is really attached to your character, or just hates going through the character creation, then New Game Plus probably appeals a lot to you. It gives you a way to keep your character but go through the quests again, although you could always just turn around when you reach the Unity. You get to keep your character but don't lose any of the items you've gathered. You get to keep all your ships, outposts and so on. So you really need to decide if your attachment is to the character or to what they've found. And then you have the bigger number is better people. There's a lot of people out there who just want to get the numbers on screen to go as high as possible. And for those people, New Game Plus is the best thing that could happen. Not only will you get more and more levels as you go, but you'll find higher tier weapons that have better damage numbers on them. Chances are you'll also be facing tougher enemies, so the actual relative power might not change all that much, but I found that is rarely a concern for players who just want to get the strongest items. If you're just after power for power's sake, then I'd 100% recommend you do New Game Plus every chance you get. And really I think that is the full range of it. It all comes down to what kind of a player you are. To work out how worthwhile New Game Plus is for you, you need to understand the type of person that you are. Personally, I would recommend every player at least experience it firsthand once or maybe twice. It is a really cool element that Bethesda decided to add to the game, and they did it in a way that actually makes sense and adds to the lore of it all. A real neat feature for sure, and if you're wanting to experience everything that Starfield has to offer, it's one you're going to want to interact with. But that doesn't mean you have to focus on it. The comment I referenced at the start of this video talks about essentially not really playing the game the way you want until you've done New Game Plus 10 times over, and I just can't see that as a fun experience. Bethesda games give you a lot of freedom in choosing what you want to do, and that's a freedom you should embrace. Play the game how you want to play it. If you're like me and want to just keep starting a new character every week, then do that. If you want to go through the Unity over and over again without doing anything else, then don't listen to my opinion and just do it. Starfield is your game to play, so you should play it your way. That's going to be it for this video, just a quick one as this has been rattling around in my head for a little while now, and I just wanted to go through my thoughts about it with all of you. If you've got anything to add, please do leave a comment. I'm very curious to see what other people's takes are here. Subscribe and click the notification bell for more Starfield content, because there's a lot more to come. And also hit the like button if you enjoyed. As always, thanks for watching. Sarge out.